The first time it happens, you mistake it for déjà vu. You're standing in your grandmother's kitchen, sunlight streaming through lace curtains, creating dappled patterns on the worn wooden floor. The scent of cinnamon and apples fills the air as she slides a pie into the oven. The hinges of the oven door squeak faintly, a sound so familiar it's practically part of the recipe. You've been here before, of course, countless Sunday afternoons spent in this warm, welcoming space. But this feels different. There's a clarity to the moment, a heightened awareness that makes your breath catch. The ticking of the old wall clock seems suddenly louder, each second distinct and crystalline. Your grandmother notices your momentary stillness, turning to you with flour-dusted hands and concerned eyes. You reassure her with a smile, though you're not entirely sure what just happened. Her eyes crinkle in that familiar way as she returns to her baking, the soft sound of her humming an old folk tune blending with the rhythmic scrape of her wooden spoon against the mixing bowl. The kitchen smells of butter and vanilla, of warmth and home. Later that night, as you drift off to sleep in your apartment, the sensation returns. A gentle tugging at first, like the pull of a tide, and then a sudden shift. The world around you doesn't so much disappear as it transforms, colors blending and reshaping until you find yourself somewhere else entirely. The transition comes with a peculiar sound, like the rushing of wind through a narrow passage, followed by a pop of pressure in your ears. You're standing on a hill overlooking a valley dotted with wildflowers. The air is different here, cleaner, fresher, and filled with the sweet perfume of heather and wild thyme. The silence is broken only by birdsong, not the urban sparrows you're used to, but complex melodies you've never heard before, and the distant rush of a stream tumbling over smooth stones. You should be frightened and disoriented, but instead, a profound sense of peace washes over you. You know, somehow, that you're experiencing a moment from the past, untouched by modern complications. You sit in the grass, trailing your fingers through the cool blades, feeling the slight resistance as they bend beneath your touch. Small insects buzz nearby, their drone a soothing background to the gentle sway of tall stems in the breeze. The sun warms your face, and for 20 perfect minutes, you exist in this tranquil pocket of time. Every breath fills your lungs with air so clean it almost tingles, untainted by exhaust or industrial waste. The earthy scent of soil and growing things centers you until the gentle tugging returns, this time accompanied by a faint chiming sound. And you find yourself back in your bed, the digital clock on your nightstand indicating that no time has passed at all. The artificial silence of your apartment, broken only by the hum of the refrigerator and distant city sounds, feels strangely empty after the vibrant quiet of the hillside. It becomes a pattern after that. Every few days, you slip sideways into another time, sometimes the past, sometimes what appears to be the future. You visit ancient marketplaces filled with spices and silk, where vendors call out their wares in languages you don't understand but somehow grasp the meaning of. The air is thick with the pungent aroma of exotic spices, cardamom, saffron, cinnamon, mingling with sweat and incense and cooking fires. Your ears strain to isolate individual sounds, the haggling of merchants, the braying of donkeys, the metallic clinking of coins changing hands, the sizzle of meat on hot stones. You observe astronomers in medieval observatories, their whispered calculations barely audible above the scratch of quill on parchment. The stone walls radiate a deep chill despite the season, and the scent of beeswax candles mingles with the musty smell of ancient manuscripts. The astronomers' robes rustle softly as they move between instruments, their eyes squinting in the dim light as they track celestial bodies through narrow windows. You walk through gleaming cities where gardens climb the walls of buildings and vehicles glide silently above the ground. These future spaces smell of growing things, a deliberate counterpoint to the sleek technology, and the air hums with a barely perceptible vibration that seems to emanate from everything. Water is everywhere, flowing down architectural features, creating a constant soft music beneath conversations in languages that have yet to evolve. The surfaces you touch feel warm and responsive, as if the very buildings are alive and aware. You never interfere with the events you witness. You're an observer, a gentle presence moving through the tapestry of time without disturbing its threads. And always, you return to your present moment, enriched by what you've seen, but unchanged in your physical form. Only the lingering sensations remain, phantom scents and sounds that fade within minutes of your return. At first, you tell no one. How could you explain something you barely understand yourself? But as the journeys continue, you begin to notice subtle changes in your everyday existence. You move more deliberately, speak more thoughtfully. The constant urgency that once characterized your life, the feeling that you were always running late, always missing something, begins to fade. One of your friends notices the difference during a coffee meetup on a rainy Tuesday. The smell of espresso and damp wool surrounds you both as raindrops tap against the window like impatient fingers. Over steaming mugs, their eyes study you with curiosity, noting how you seem more present, more settled in yourself. The hiss of the espresso machine punctuate your vague comment about mindfulness practices, which isn't entirely untrue. What are your time slips, if not lessons, in being fully present in each moment? 3 months into your temporal wanderings, you begin to wonder if you can exert any control over your destinations. The journeys have been random so far. A prehistoric shoreline one day, where the crash of waves against unfamiliar coastlines and the cries of extinct birds filled your ears. A Renaissance workshop the next, where the scratch of charcoal on canvas and the smell of linseed oil surrounded you. But what if you could choose? What if you could visit specific moments in history or glimpse particular futures? That night, as you prepare for sleep, you focus your thoughts on a specific image, your childhood home on the day of your 10th birthday. You remember the streamers your parents hung from the porch, their plastic rustling in the summer breeze, the chocolate cake with buttercream frosting, its rich sweetness you could almost taste by simply looking at it. The pile of presents on the dining room table, wrapped in paper, crackled satisfyingly when torn. You hold this image in your mind as you drift off, concentrating on the details with all your might. The specific pitch of children's laughter, the smell of freshly cut grass, the sticky feeling of punch-stained fingers. When the tugging comes, it's stronger than before, more purposeful. The whirling sensation intensifies, accompanied by a sound like pages rapidly turning in a book. The world shifts, and suddenly you're there, standing on the sidewalk in front of your childhood home. Everything exactly as you remembered it. The concrete is warm beneath your feet from hours of summer sun. A sprinkler several houses down provides a rhythmic background to the shrieks and giggles from your yard. Your younger self races across the lawn with friends, playing some forgotten game while adults chat on the porch, ice clinking in glasses of lemonade that sweat in the heat. The air smells of charcoal from the grill, of sunscreen and mowed grass, of childhood itself. The scene is infused with golden afternoon light, a perfect moment preserved in time. You watch from a distance, careful not to interfere, but your heart swells with joy at the pure, uncomplicated happiness of that day. The distant sound of your childhood laughter, higher, lighter than you remembered, brings a lump to your throat. You'd forgotten how freely you laughed then, how vividly you experienced each moment without the filter of adult concerns. As you observe your younger self, you make a silent promise to reclaim some of that unburdened joy. The realization that you can direct your journeys opens up new possibilities. You visit the construction of the Great Pyramids, where the air is thick with dust, and the sound of stone scraping against stone is constant. Thousands of voices call out in coordinated chants as massive blocks move slowly upward. The smell of sweat and sand and determination surrounds you, along with the spices used to treat the workers' aching muscles at day's end. You witness the first performance of Mozart's The Magic Flute, the notes so crystalline and perfect they seem to bypass your ears and resonate directly within your chest. The theater smells of beeswax and perfume, of unwashed bodies in fine clothing. The rustle of programs and whispered commentary forms a soft bed beneath the music, while the creak of wooden seats and occasional cough reminds you that even the most transcendent art occurs in physical spaces. You observe silent film stars on the set of a movie that would become a classic, the clack of the director's slate sharp in the quiet space. Despite the name silent film, the set is anything but. Constant instructions shouted, the whir of the camera, the scrape of furniture being moved between takes. The distinctive chemical smell of early film stock mingles with grease paint and face powder, creating an aroma unique to this moment in cinematic history. Each trip leaves you with a deeper appreciation for the interconnectedness of human experience across time. The textures, scents, and sounds of different eras begin to form patterns in your mind, shared elements that connect people across centuries. But it's the future journeys that affect you most profoundly. You glimpse a world where technology and nature exist in harmony, where people move through their days with purpose and peace. Not a utopia. There are still challenges, still sorrows, but a world that has found balance. You see communities gathering to celebrate harvests from vertical farms, the air rich with the smell of growing things despite being inside vast structures. The soundscape is a careful blend of natural elements, flowing water, rustling leaves, and subtle technological tones that seem designed to complement rather than overcome the natural world. When you run your fingers along surfaces, they respond with slight temperature changes and gentle vibrations that somehow communicate information without requiring visual displays. You observe children learning in classrooms without walls, the soft murmur of many small discussions creating a productive hum like bees in a flourishing garden. The air smells of crushed herbs from nearby medicinal gardens and something else, a clean, energizing scent you can't quite identify, but that makes your mind feel sharper, more receptive. As your temporal journeys continue, you begin to notice patterns and connections between different times and places that you wouldn't have recognized before. You see how ideas ripple through history, how small acts of kindness echo across centuries, and how beauty persists even in difficult eras. One evening, during a visit to a bustling market in 18th century Kyoto, you notice an elderly craftsman creating delicate paper cranes. The paper makes a distinctive sound as he folds it, crisp yet delicate, like winter's first frost cracking. His wrinkled hands move with surprising dexterity, folding the paper with practiced precision. The air around his stall smells of rice paste and ink, of the sweet rice cakes he nibbles between creations. You watch, mesmerized, as he completes a crane and places it alongside dozens of others, each a slightly different shade. The finished pieces make a soft rustling sound when the breeze catches them, like a whispered conversation. A young woman approaches his stall, the silk of her kimono making a subtle swishing sound against the wooden walkway. Her hair ornaments tinkle faintly with each step. She points to the collection with evident delight, her small exclamation of pleasure transcending language barriers. The craftsman smiles, selecting a pale blue crane and offering it to her. She accepts it with a deep bow, tucking the crane into her sleeve before continuing on her way, her face alight with joy, the sound of her wooden sandals creating a gentle rhythm as she disappears into the crowd. The following week, you find yourself in what must be the near future, standing in a memorial garden. The air smells of cherry blossoms and incense, a combination that somehow speaks of both celebration and remembrance. Strings of origami cranes hang from trees and flutter in the gentle breeze, creating a sound like rainfall on leaves. People of all ages walk quietly among the displays, their footsteps on the gravel paths creating a meditative crunch. You don't know what event this memorial commemorates, but you feel the weight of its significance and the beauty of this collective expression of remembrance and hope. 6 months into your time-traveling experience, you begin to notice something new. During your visits to the past, people occasionally seem to sense your presence. A young woman in the 1920s. Paris glances in your direction with curious eyes, the pearls on her dress clicking softly as she turns. A child in ancient Rome points toward you before being gently corrected by his mother, the leather of his sandals squeaking against marble. A painter in the 16th century Florence pauses in his work, looking directly at the spot where you stand, the soft scrape of his brush against the palette falling silent for a moment before he shakes his head and returns to his canvas, the rhythm of his work resuming. These moments unsettle you at first. You've grown comfortable with your role as an unseen observer, moving through time without leaving a trace. The idea that you might be perceptible, that you might accidentally influence the very history you're witnessing, fills you with concern. But then, during a visit to a pioneer homestead on the American frontier, something extraordinary happens. You're watching a woman hang laundry on a line, her movements efficient despite the obvious fatigue in her posture. The wet fabric snaps in the wind, and the wooden pins clack against each other as she works. The air smells of lye soap and prairie grass, of approaching rain and wood smoke from the cabin's chimney. Suddenly, a gust of wind tears one of the sheets from the line, sending it tumbling across the yard with a sound like sails filling. Without thinking, you step forward and catch it. The rough fabric cold and damp between your hands, water seeping into your skin. The woman turns, surprised, and for a heart-stopping moment, your eyes meet. The creak of her worn boots ceases as she freezes in place. She sees you, and after a brief hesitation, she smiles and extends her hand for the sheet. Your fingers brush as you return it, a brief moment of contact across centuries. The fabric makes a familiar sound as she shakes it out firmly and secures it more firmly to the line with 2 additional pins, their wooden clack punctuating her satisfied nod of thanks. That's it. A simple exchange, over in seconds. But as you return to your present, the memory of that connection stays with you. The texture of the wet linen, the calloused brush of her fingertips, the smell of approaching rain, the sound of fabric snapping in the wind. You didn't change history with your small act of kindness, didn't alter the course of events in any meaningful way. You simply helped someone who needed it, bridging centuries with a gesture of common humanity. The experience shifts something in your understanding of your journeys. Perhaps you aren't meant to be just an observer after all. Perhaps there's a reason the veil between you and the times you visit is growing thinner. This theory gains strength during your next journey, when you find yourself in what appears to be a research facility sometime in the mid-21st century. The space has a distinctive scent, clean without being chemical, with undertones of ozone and something organic you can't quite identify. The ambient sound is complex. The soft hum of advanced equipment, the occasional chime of notifications, the whisper of air circulation systems, and beneath it all, a low-frequency vibration you feel more than hear. Scientists in sleek uniforms move purposefully among machines that pulse with colored light, their footsteps nearly silent on floors that seem to absorb sound. Their conversations float around you in fragments just beyond your hearing, like listening underwater. One woman stands apart from the others, studying a holographic display with intense concentration. The light from the display reflects in her eyes and casts subtle patterns across her face. The soft tapping of her fingers against invisible sensors creates a rhythmic counterpoint to the ambient sounds of the facility. As you approach, curious about her work, she suddenly looks up, directly at you. The tapping ceases abruptly. Her expression shows no surprise, only recognition. She acknowledges your presence with a nod, as if she's been expecting you. The holographic display she's studying contains data about temporal energy patterns, flowing streams of information that pulse and shift like northern lights. You realize with a jolt that she's tracking people like you, individuals who move through time naturally, without technology. The display emits a soft tone when your presence is fully registered, a sound that somehow conveys recognition and welcome. Through a brief, remarkable interaction, you learn that you're part of something larger than yourself. The scientist explains without words, through images on her screen and her knowing expression, that people like you serve as bridges between times. You carry knowledge, perspective, and understanding across the boundaries of time, helping to maintain the continuity of human experience. Each image on her screen comes with a subtle auditory component, tonal shifts that somehow convey meaning directly to your mind. When she adjusts certain parameters, you feel gentle vibrations through the floor, as if the very fabric of time is responding to her touch. When she asks with her eyes if you've noticed changes in your present life since your journeys began, you consider how you've become more patient, more appreciative of small moments, more hopeful about the future despite the challenges of your time. How your conversations with friends and family have taken on new depth. How ideas and insights from your temporal visits have subtly influenced your work, your creative projects, and your daily choices. Before you can communicate more, the familiar tugging sensation begins, pulling you back to your present. This time, it comes with a sound like distant chimes and the scent of ozone, stronger than before. The scientist raises her hand in farewell, her smile suggesting she understands exactly what's happening. The last thing you hear before the transition completes is a soft tone from her equipment, a musical phrase that somehow conveys both farewell and anticipation of future meetings. This encounter changes everything. Your temporal journeys are no longer simply extraordinary experiences happening to you. They're part of something larger, a natural process with purpose and meaning. You are not merely witnessing the flow of time, but participating in it, helping to maintain connections between different eras. With this new understanding, you approach your journeys differently. You remain respectful of the times you visit, careful not to disrupt or interfere in significant ways. But you no longer shy away from small interactions. You help an elderly man carry groceries in 1950s suburban America, the paper bags crinkling between your hands, the scent of fresh oranges and coffee rising from them. You retrieve a dropped manuscript for a harried scholar in medieval Baghdad, the parchment rough beneath your fingers, dust tickling your nose as you bend to collect the scattered pages. You smile encouragingly at a nervous young performer about to take the stage in the 22nd century New Shanghai, the synthetic fabric of the curtain behind which you stand, emitting a subtle lavender scent designed to calm performance anxiety. These minor kindnesses cost nothing and change little in the grand historical narrative, but they create connections, tiny bridges spanning vast temporal distances. And in your present life, you find ways to share the wisdom you've gained, not by revealing the source of your insights, but by incorporating them into your conversations, your work, and your everyday interactions. During a lunch break, the clatter of cafeteria trays and murmur of conversation surrounds you as you share thoughts with one of your colleagues about how many incredible ideas throughout history were probably forgotten or overlooked because they came at the wrong time or from someone without power or influence. The aromatic steam from your soup rises between you as this observation, born from your temporal wanderings, leads to a conversation about innovation and perspective. This discussion ultimately shifts your team's approach to a challenging project. While this change won't make history books, it represents exactly the kind of subtle influence the scientist from the future implied, the ripple effect of temporal bridges. As the seasons change and a year passes since your first temporal journey, you notice something new. Your visits, once random or directed solely by your curiosity, now seem to occur when they're most needed, both for you and for the times you visit. When you're struggling with a personal loss, you find yourself in a grief ritual from an ancient culture, the deep resonance of ceremonial drums vibrating in your chest, the bitter smoke of sacred herbs clearing your head, the communal humming of mourners creating harmonics that seem to reach inside your very bones. You witness the communal support and acknowledgement of pain that your own society often lacks. When you're feeling hopeless about environmental challenges, you journey to a future where innovative restoration projects are healing damaged ecosystems. The air smells green and alive, thick with oxygen from newly established forests. The soft burble of clean streams and the rustle of abundant wildlife create a soundscape of hope. When you run your hand along the trunk of a massive tree, the bark feels warm and vibrant, pulsing with life where once there was desolation. These experiences provide perspective, comfort, and renewed purpose exactly when you need them most. Likewise, your presence at other times seems most perceptible when it serves a purpose. A discouraged inventor in 19th century London senses you just as he's about to abandon a promising design. The scratching of his pen pauses as he feels your presence, the air around him subtly charged. Your interested observation, manifesting as a warmth he can feel but not explain, encourages him to continue. a lonely child in 2070's rural Australia somehow knows you're there. The rustling of her simple drawing materials stilling momentarily as she glances toward where you stand. Invisible, but somehow sensed. She draws comfort from your unseen company during a difficult transition. The quality of silence between you is peaceful rather than empty. You're learning that time is not a straight line, but a complex tapestry where threads connect in unexpected ways. Past, present, and future exist simultaneously, influencing each other in subtle but significant patterns. And you, along with others like you, the bridges the scientist referenced, help maintain these connections, ensuring that the wisdom, creativity, and hope of one era can flow into others. You begin to recognize the sensory signatures of these connections, particular combinations of sounds, scents, and textures that recur across time with variations like motifs in an endless composition. One night, as you prepare for sleep with this understanding settled comfortably in your mind, the sound of rain against your window creating a soothing backdrop to your thoughts, you find yourself wondering about your grandmother's kitchen, the place where your journeys began. Was there something special about that space, that moment? Or was it simply your time to become aware of an ability that had always been within you? As if in answer to your unspoken question, the familiar tugging begins, gentler than ever before. The transition comes with a scent you immediately recognize: cinnamon and apples, butter and home. The world shifts, and you find yourself back in that sunlit kitchen, watching your grandmother slide a pie into the oven. The hinges still squeak, the wall clock still ticks. But now these sounds feel significant, like elements of a complex code you're beginning to understand. When she turns to you, her eyes widen with recognition, an understanding that goes beyond your relationship as grandmother and grandchild. The wooden spoon she's holding stills against the rim of the bowl, the soft tapping ceasing as her attention focuses fully on you. In a moment of profound connection, without a single word exchanged, you realize she knows. The temporal traveling runs in your family, not everyone, but enough of you. She recognized the signs in you that day, a particular quality of attention, a momentary disconnection from the present that she remembered from her early travels. Through meaningful glances, gestures, and the comfortable silence of deep understanding, your grandmother shares her wisdom. Her hands move in patterns that convey meaning beyond ordinary gestures, creating ripples in the air that you can somehow sense. She indicates why she didn't tell you before. Some things need to be discovered in their own time. If she had told you before you experienced it yourself, you might not have believed her. The skeptical tilt of your head in response makes her smile. Besides, everyone's experience of traveling is unique. The times that call to you, the connections you make, they're your own. She didn't want to influence that with her stories. But now that you've found your way, there are things she can teach you, ways to navigate your gift more consciously. For the next hour, through demonstration and gentle guidance, she shows you techniques for choosing when and where to go. Her fingers trace patterns in the dusting of flour on the countertop, creating symbols that seem to shimmer with meaning. The vibrations from these symbols travel up your arm when you touch them, encoding information in a way that bypasses language entirely. She demonstrates how to listen to the currents of time, how to understand what's being asked of you in each journey, the varying pitches of the kitchen sounds, water dripping from the faucet, the refrigerator's hum, the distant town clock striking the hour suddenly form a pattern, a temporal music that you'd never noticed before, but now seems obvious. Her eyes shine with wisdom and affection as she imparts the knowledge that temporal travelers in your family have accumulated through generations, a heritage as rich and complex as the scents filling her kitchen. As your grandmother shares these insights, you feel a sense of belonging that transcends the ordinary meaning of the word. You belong not just to your immediate family and community, but to a lineage that stretches across time itself, connected by this extraordinary ability to move between moments, to witness the vast, beautiful tapestry of human experience in all its complexity. This belonging has a physical sensation, a resonance in your bones, a synchronization of your heartbeat with rhythms beyond your understanding. When the tugging sensation returns, signaling the end of this visit, you embrace your grandmother with new understanding. Her cardigan is soft against your cheek, smelling of lavender and baking, and something else you can't name but instantly recognize as simply her. The promise of seeing her again, both in an ordinary way and this extraordinary one, passes between you without words. Her smile as you fade back to your present conveys everything. Time is a circle. We're never really apart. The sound of her heartbeat against your ear is the last thing you register before the transition completes. As you return to your present moment, lying in your bed with the first light of dawn filtering through your window, birdsong gradually replacing the night's silence, you carry with you not only the knowledge your grandmother shared, but also a profound sense of purpose. Your temporal journeys are not random occurrences or mere curious adventures, but part of an ancient practice, a responsibility passed down through generations. In the days that follow, you begin to implement your grandmother's teachings, approaching your travels with greater intention and awareness. You learn to recognize the subtle differences in the tugging sensation that precedes each journey, differences that indicate whether you're being called to witness, to learn, or to offer some small assistance. Sometimes it feels like a gentle wave, pulling you toward contemplative moments in history. Other times it's sharper, more urgent, guiding you to instances where your presence might bring comfort or inspiration. The sounds accompanying the transitions vary too, from the soft turning of pages to the crystalline ring of fine glass, each with its specific meaning. You practice the meditation techniques she taught you, allowing you to extend your time in each era when necessary, or to return more quickly when appropriate. These practices involve synchronizing your breathing with environmental rhythms, focusing on specific sensory inputs to anchor yourself or release your hold on a particular time. You discover that certain scents, pine resin, sea salt, wood smoke, help stabilize your presence in past eras, while focusing on specific tones or vibrations aids in navigating to future times. Most importantly, you begin to understand your role as a keeper of continuity, someone who helps maintain the delicate threads connecting different times. You observe how ideas, symbols, and human experiences echo across centuries, creating patterns that might go unnoticed without someone to witness them, someone to carry their significance forward and backwards through time. These patterns have sensory signatures, particular combinations of sounds, scents, textures, and colors that recur with variations, like themes in a vast symphony. On a crisp autumn afternoon, sitting in your favorite park and watching children play among fallen leaves, the scrape of feet through crackling foliage creating a seasonal percussion, You reflect on how much your life has changed since that first accidental journey. The constant anxiety that once colored your days has been replaced by a deep, abiding peace. The future, both your future and the broader future of humanity, no longer seems like a source of dread, but a continuation of the great, complex, beautiful story you've been privileged to witness. A child's laughter, bright and bell-like, draws your attention to a small girl chasing a red leaf as it dances on the breeze. Her boots make satisfying crunches on the gravel path as she runs. She catches the leaf triumphantly, holds it up to the sunlight to admire its veins and color, the translucent red glowing like stained glass, then carefully places it in her pocket like a treasure. The simple joy of this moment, the child's delight, the preserved leaf, the golden light through the trees, the sound of her continued play, strikes you as perfectly complete, a tiny masterpiece in the endless gallery of time. As you walk home through streets both familiar and new, for you now see them layered with the ghost images of what they were and what they might become, the urban soundscape washes over you. Car engines and distant conversations, the ping of a bicycle bell, the rhythmic footsteps of other pedestrians, all form a complex audio environment unique to this particular moment in time. You understand that time travel has taught you the most important lesson of all: how to be fully present in your moment, while holding awareness of the vast interconnected tapestry of which it's a part. Your phone chimes with a message from a friend. They're inviting you to dinner. You respond with enthusiasm, the soft tapping of your fingers on the screen creating a rhythmic counterpoint to your footsteps. Tonight, you'll be fully present in this time with these people. You'll listen deeply, share genuinely, create connections that matter. The taste of the meal, the texture of the chair beneath you, the particular quality of laughter around the table. You'll notice it all, savor it all. And later, when sleep comes, perhaps you'll journey to another time, carrying with you the accumulated wisdom of your experiences, building bridges across the centuries with each step. For now, though, there is just this moment, the autumn air against your skin, cool with the promise of winter, but not yet cold. The rhythm of your steps on the pavement, creating a steady beat. The knowledge that you are exactly where and when you need to be. A street musician's saxophone phrases drift around a corner, plaintive and beautiful. The scent of coffee from a nearby cafe mingles with fallen leaves and someone's perfume. And that is its own kind of magic, its own kind of time travel. The ability to be wholly, completely here, now, while holding the awareness that here and now is part of something endlessly vast and wondrously connected. As you reach your apartment building, you pause to look up at the sky, watching as the first stars become visible in the deep blue. The distant sound of traffic forms a continuous backdrop to this moment of stillness. Somewhere, somewhen, another version of you might be looking at these same stars from a different vantage point in time. The thought brings a smile to your face and a warmth to your heart as you head inside, the familiar creak of the building's front door welcoming you home. You're ready for whatever this evening and all your evenings across all of time might bring. Your senses open to the full, rich experience of existing in this particular moment while connected to all moments. Sleep well. Good night.